This module looks at the question of document control. The documentation forms a hierarchy with the charter at the top, followed by management documents, procedural documents, and records. The management documents act as guidelines. They hold key information and provide managerial direction on the operation of an energy management system. The procedural documents define operational procedures to deliver continual improvement, while the records contain actual facts and data on system operation, including minutes of meetings, daily logs, and monitoring data. Dividing information into these categories makes it easier to integrate existing documentation and data into your new energy management system. According to ISO 50001:2011, documents required for the management system shall be controlled, including technical documentation where appropriate. To achieve that, the organisation should establish, implement and maintain procedures to approve documents for adequacy prior to use. Periodically, they should review and update documents as necessary. They should ensure that changes in the current revision status of documents are identified, ensure that relevant versions of applicable documents are available at points of use, ensure that documents remain legible and readily identifiable, ensure that documents of external origin determined by the organisation to be necessary for the planning and operation of the energy management system are identified and their distribution controlled, and finally prevent the unintended use of obsolete documents and identifies those to be retained. To ensure documents are properly controlled, the organisation establishes and maintains procedures that approve documents before they're used. They review and update documents periodically, ensure that changes and the current revision status are identified, ensure that relevant versions of documents are available where needed, either through printed copies or electronic access, identify external as third-party documents that are necessary for the management system, and distribute them in an appropriate manner, and prevent the circulation of obsolete or out-of-date versions. These points may already be in place at your workplace because they're a normal part of any formal quality management system. All documentation should be reviewed by the energy manager and appropriate management. The Energy Management Committee is appropriate in most, except in the smallest organisations where it might be approved by top management. Working documents should also be approved by the appropriate management team in each energy account centre or by personnel responsible for each significant energy use. The energy management team should review and record all documentation related to the management system at planned intervals to ensure that it complies with legal and other external requirements. These points should be checked during periodical internal audits of the system. Here are the fundamental requirements for documentation related to the energy management system. You need to decide whether the master files will be paper or electronic. Either is acceptable. You need to define and document the core elements of the system, and any records related to energy management need to form part of the system documentation. For proper control of documents, there needs to be approval prior to use, periodic review and updates, revision control. The documents must be legible and identifiable with only the latest version in circulation, and a proper system for dealing with documentation that's no longer current. Finally, energy management is a part of business management. Therefore, the energy management documentation must observe the requirements of the systems already in place for business management. Here's a list of typical documents that you would expect to find in a system, although the standard does not actually specify this list. There would be energy policies, roles and responsibilities, energy review results, copies of energy audit reports, objectives, targets and action plans, training plans, procedures and processes, lists of critical operating parameters, technical drawings of systems and equipment, including process and instrumentation diagrams, process flow diagrams and single line diagrams, technical specifications of equipment, the energy performance indicators and baseline, operator logs, maintenance and service records, minutes of energy meetings, and communications with corporate management and external agencies, among others. The Charter and the 12 key management documents should be designed so that all existing procedural documents and records can merge into the ISO 50001 structure. They can be either hard copy or electronic form. A map of the location of all documents should be created. It's not necessary or even desirable that all documents be copied and included. You need to keep careful control of the number of copies you create and the numbers in circulation. The more copies you create, the more work you create, and the more potential for error if duplicate copies are in circulation. The heart of ISO 50001 is to thoroughly document the way that organizations do things and to ensure that workers actually do things in the way that was documented. This means that documentation plays the most important role in the ISO 50001 process. Establishing sound documents and the proper control of documents are essential in order to maintain, communicate, and further improve the management systems with all people involved. The guidelines and provisions defined in the Charter should address the proper management of documents, including defining structures and procedures.